Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky. I'm coming on today to talk to you about the Venus retrograde in Leo of 2023, which has been in effect for a few weeks now. I'm just getting to make a video about it. The official dates of this transit are July 22nd to September 3rd, 2023. Of course, as it stations direct around the 3rd of September, we will still be feeling the effects of this Venus retrograde for quite a while. It's happening, of course, in the sign of Leo, of course, during Leo season right now. And we've had a really interesting Venus-Sun CAZIMI, which happened, I believe it was the 13th of August. It was just a few days ago as I'm filming this. And I got quite a bit of information on that day, so I thought I would come and talk to you all about it. I hope you enjoy the video. If it resonates, hit the subscribe button below and check out the description box for any relevant links. So let's talk about Venus retrograde, which we can apply a lot of the lessons that we get for quite some time to come. Of course, I think that we will be getting some insights about perhaps the future of Pluto in Aquarius. Of course, this is the axis, the Leo-Aquarius axis, that will tell us a lot about some of the more close to home ways that Pluto and Aquarius may be affecting us. Of course, we've had the sun and the moon, the two closest bodies, most visible bodies in Leo alongside this Venus retrograde. And I think that it is teaching us a lot about ego and teaching us a lot about persona and the way in which we are expressing our inner vision to the outside world. And that could perhaps be a little bit retrograde now. I think that a big theme of 2023 has been kind of like identifying a gap between how we want to express versus how things actually are, perhaps where we want to be or our ideal or our goal, sort of lifestyle or life experience versus the way that it is now. And that contrast has become so visible in 2023. And a lot of us are facing like a bigger question now, like, do we accept this as kind of just like an internal self-identification, or do we really try to manifest this outwards? And what this Venus retrograde in Leo has been doing is it's been showing all the ways that we're not necessarily acting or expressing in a way that could possibly manifest these greater ideals that we have for our experience. So yeah, this is kind of a tough transit, you all. A lot of people, we had the Venus-Sun CAZIMI, which is very nice, like especially if it's not retrograde and in the sign of Leo. I mean, it's very powerful to have that exact conjunction that we've had between Venus and the Sun. And there are definitely some positive outcomes that we can correlate with that. Like, for example, just to talk about the positive, it's a wonderful transit for feeling strong enough to do something, for not feeling like you're incapable, for not also being afraid of contradiction or criticism. I think that this has been a great transit to kind of get into that motivational place where we're like, okay, I'm not afraid of criticism. I know what I have to do. Sometimes people, when they get like a kind of like weak heart chakra, okay, they start thinking, well, like, I want that career, or I want that different lifestyle, but I'm afraid nobody will support me, or I'm afraid that people will be critical of me, therefore I'm not going to try. It's like that, it's like a vulnerable feeling where we want to hide away. So there's definitely been a strengthening of the heart chakra with the Venus-Sun CAZIMI, and a lot of people are like, I'm not afraid to reach for that. I'm not afraid of criticism. And also a lot of people are now not afraid to actually do what's important. Or, sometimes people also with like, not even necessarily a weak heart chakra, but just kind of sometimes with a fear, generalized fear, which is very strong and prevalent right now globally. They think, okay, now's not the time. Now is the time to kind of like think more about it, or the time to like visualize, which is also a part of the 2023 year cycle, as there's a feeling of kind of being like, in one's own space, really getting the vision right. So that's not the wrong thing to be doing right now at all. But also at a certain point in time, you have to re-emerge and demonstrate and actually kind of like stand with these ideas. Otherwise, things start to become a little bit, delusional is not the right word. But when people get into this space where they're like visualizing or manifesting or thinking about how things could be, over and over and over again, and there's no like action behind it, that can become like a vicious cycle, you know, and that can become a little bit of again, delusional is not the right word, but it can start to get there, especially if people are given like opportunity after opportunity to actually get across that bridge, but they're staying on the bridge, which is something that has been like in effect for quite a long time now, for like years. Like there's been this sort of like bridge dynamic where it's like, I can do this to get there, but then people get stuck in the this, you know what I mean? like they don't go to the there. So there's like this, like being like doing all of these mathematical equations to get somewhere. We don't want to get stuck in the debris. As you guys know, if you remember the August comprehensive astrology video, which I'll link below, I was talking about how we have path clearing momentum in this month of August with the oncoming retrograde Earth trine happening with Uranus and Mercury preparing to go retrograde, which again, hit the subscribe button below if you want to be notified when I make videos about both of those transits happening at the end of this month. Yes, there's going to be this very electrolyzed feeling, electric feeling, okay, as the heart is going to strengthen through this Venus retrograde. And people are going to be kind of destructive. You guys, there's going to be this kind of like destructive quality, and this has to be channeled with care. So another thing that I want to talk about with this Venus retrograde in Leo is being unwittingly destructive. So like not being focused with what you choose to like remove or subtract from your life. We have an overarching quantum right now that deals with reduction, subtraction, releasing, saying no, withdrawing. And that is going to have to be done with more care now. As I've seen a few people, this is interesting because I've been talking about this all year, but I've seen like some people are doing it really well. And then also some people are trying to like get things out of their life that like doesn't make sense. So like some people will then, you know, for example, try to like cut their budget just to like sacrifice an opportunity. Okay. Like, you know, you try to like do more yourself to like get ahead. And then you're like, actually subtracting certain opportunities from your life. We have to really rethink things like that. And so we're striking a balance, right, between reduction and then also making sure that that's not so extreme that we then, you know, remit certain opportunities. I do think that there will be just so much opportunity over this next few year cycle, actually. And this Venus retrograde, this July 22nd to September 3rd period is a lot about, growing through morals, okay, about what we say yes and no to. Venus is the sign of the planet of passive reception. When it's in the sign of Leo, it is usually indicating abundance. So it's like receiving a lot of perhaps good reputation, receiving a lot of abundance, and for some people authority. Okay, Venus in Leo deals with authority and the reception of authority. When it's retrograde, what does that mean? Well, this can be reception of a type of authority that is in the future frowned upon, okay? Also, it can just be loss of authority, or it can be kind of like not using authority wisely. So it can be like haughtiness, it can be arrogance, it can be, you know, authority for the sake of authority, not for the sake of helping or actually increasing the overall abundance. Okay, you know, we all know those types of people, right? Like they like their authority position for the sake of the like way it makes them appear, not for like what they're actually doing. So it's an interesting time, whether this has to do with authority or not. Like the actions that you're taking in your life, right? All this fire energy, the actions. Are you taking these actions because they increase the overall well-being of the experience, or because of a certain vanity metric? Okay, that would be an important thing to look at with this Venus retrograde in Leo. Certain things such as like status, vanity, and because I'm seeing a lot of people struggling here. This is also going to be replicated in the current Saturn and Neptune retrograde in Pisces that we have, where people like are getting a little bit skewed. Okay, this is a collective issue, getting a little bit skewed about like where they're putting themselves, what they're shooting for, what they're aiming for in their lives, and like why that is. So the why factor combining also with like the self-perception, this is getting back into that persona issue, that self-identification issue. And then a lot of people kind of like, maybe vanity is not the right word, because that kind of stokes a certain like, vanity is one of those words that has a lot of like religious undertones and things like that. But for lack of a better word, I think that it is good with a Venus retrograde in Leo. And certainly it has to do with like maybe just a disconnect between what we're seeing for ourselves through our own inner knowing versus like the eyes of other people. People might be really obsessed with the way things appear right now, with the way that other people think about them, with like the reputation factor, with this Pisces and Leo energy. Also, this Mercury-Mars conjunction in Virgo is very perfectionistic. Okay, it's very people are there are some people really getting it together right now. I've got to say that too. There are some people using this transit, using this time in a very positive way, which is to kind of like filter through some of the previous mistakes and also to increase their expression in a way that's not vain, in a way that's not nonsensical, but in a way that actually is relevant and combinative with their inner purpose. And then they're combining that with some really good routine, Mercury, Mars, and Virgo. And it has like a deeper spiritual purpose as well, or a deeper humanity-based focus with the Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. So that's the best potential I feel right now. Let's bring it down again to the more mundane level, and just to this specific timeline, this up towards September 3rd, and really probably, I would say all through Virgo season, okay, that we'll really be feeling the continued effects of this Venus retrograde in Leo. So through most of September, okay, a lot of us may have to grant our life experiences more subtlety. Venus retrograde in Leo can be too loud. It can be too threatening is not the right word, but it's just like the Leo, right? It's like the king sign or queen sign. It's the it's that feeling of authority again. And when it's retrograde, it just is not maybe the most supported authority. So you want to be careful with anything that deals with like, I'm going to try to impose something. I'm going to try to influence something. I'm going to try to commandeer something or force something into action that's not naturally happening right now. You want to be careful with that. And it can go, and this is interesting. This is very somewhat complex. This is kind of like also being too much staying power as well. Like it can go either in like trying to force something to change or trying to force something to stay the same. Anything that's too forceful or too unrelenting or too imposing is kind of trying to filter out of the experience right now, because that's been a big part of the last few years, is like pushing through with something or proving how much you can like continue to grow or continue to sort of be, in charge of your own destiny or whatever. This is kind of a very leonine topic. And now we're going to see where that's gone wrong. And a lot of us are going to have to go more with the flow here and allow the positions or the forces of nature to actually kind of guide us rather than trying to change those dynamics, like kind of going with the flow instead. And through that, you can actually maybe get to a place of better sort of like self-actualization and self-empowerment grid. But at that point in time, it won't be needed in the same way either. This is kind of also maybe an issue of like deprivation here with this transit Venus. Any Venus retrograde can also just simply be a feeling like you don't have enough, right? Like maybe not enough, feeling like you don't have enough money, enough status, enough authority over something. And then when people get that feeling of not enough, they get like a little bit desperate and they try to like wield it or they try to get it. And that is then like kind of over the long term, like disempowering, because it's not come in a way that was natural. So taking a look at things not coming in natural ways, taking a look at forcefulness, taking a look at, again, this is evocative of the previous nodal paradigm. We now have North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra. I made a video about that. I'll link it below. We now have a different nodal paradigm, which is much more favorable for balance and sort of like measured incremental movements. It's not so grandiose and supportive of extreme, power plays or really egotistical displays as well. So with that in mind, everyone, I'm wishing you luck with finishing this Venus retrograde. It's an interesting time to learn through other people as well. It's because Venus retrograde can also indicate a change in relationship status. Breakups are easier, but it's also interesting to meet new people. Maybe not to like form relationships right with Venus retrograde, but you can learn a lot just through connecting with new people or connecting with different types of energy. And that's kind of displayed elsewhere in the chart. I will also just say that this doesn't really have to do with the Venus retrograde, but it's kind of making me think of this, like Pluto being, again, back at 28 degrees Capricorn. One of the other overtones affecting this Venus retrograde in Leo is sort of this feeling that things are on their last leg, or things are really kind of depreciated, deprecated, or really unwieldy. So therefore, when you find times like that, you do see people maybe acting a bit more desperate, and you see people really trying to like cling to certain like power dynamics, status dynamics, so on and so forth. So just thinking of those two things combined, like the Venus retrograde in Leo, the Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, really trying to get back into Aquarius. It kind of feels like a period of time where people could kind of have like a last act of like major ego display, attempting to like cling to some kind of ego authority. And that would be very tempting for a lot of people. That would be something that would feel like maybe was the only option for a lot of people. And I think the better way forward would probably be non-intervention. But yes, at a deeper internal level, there's something of really showing ourselves who we are and visualizing, but maybe that's not quite coming through yet. But incrementally, it can happen. So I'll leave you all with that. I hope this resonated. Check out the links below in the description box. This channel is on Patreon. I have all 12 sign readings for August, and they're about to go in production for September. September is going to be a wild month. Come check it out. Also, we do weekly forecasts over there. And certainly keep subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit the thumbs up, and comment below, and let me know what you thought about the video and what your thoughts are on this transit. Have a great Venus retrograde, everyone. And yes, I will be making videos about Mercury and Uranus going retrograde later this month. Have a great one. Bye.